Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Spiritual Grind. We hope you enjoy it, and don't forget to follow, hit the little bell for your notifications when the podcast is posted, and like, follow, and share with your friends. We hope you enjoy it. Leave a comment if there's any topics that you want us to speak about.
Like, follow, share.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jenny. Welcome back to the show.
Good morning.
Living in a dream right now.
You are?
I am.
Do you want me to wake you? I can
No.
pinch you really hard.
No, let's not do that.
Might be fun.
So,
for me, at least.
Jenny and I were talking this morning during our coffee, and she brought up a topic that was really kind of beyond me.
A rabbit hole topic?
It is a little bit of a rabbit hole. And it's going to be entertaining and educational for me to have this podcast, because what comes to mind when I was in the shower was mind over matter.
Of course. That's a popular saying.
If you don't mind, it don't matter. And if you don't matter, it doesn't mind. But what brings that to mind was this morning, Jenny said,
Get your carrots, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
Going down this rabbit hole. Air is energy as well as everything that we are energy. Everything that exists is made of energy.
Yeah.
And the difference is sometimes that energy turns into solid matter, and sometimes it doesn't.
Why?
I don't know.
What makes it do that?
That's what I don't know. It was beyond me, because Jenny made a statement this morning. If you take a cubic foot of air.
I didn't really define it as a cubic foot. I don't really know how big that is, but
yeah. But if you take air, and it is made of energy as well, just like everything else, you can pass right through it.
Yeah, you can put your arm through the air all day long, because you have a definition and a belief in place that says I can move my arm easily and effortlessly through the air in any form or fashion that I want. I can flap around like a bird. I can put my arm out in front of me, above my head.
But then we have like solid matter that's made of the exact same stuff. Like, for example, a table. This table we're at.
Yeah.
Why can't we pass through that when it's made of the exact same stuff?
Well, because by giving it a label, you have given it a definition that was taught to you, or that you picked up, or that you decided was a definition that you wanted. And within that definition are certain criteria and parameters that it fits in. And so in the definition that we've all been taught as young as we probably can remember, is that a table is solid matter. And part of that unspoken definition is that you can't necessarily put your hand through it without causing injury.
Let me try. Oh, that hurt.
And so we don't do it, because we go along the premise of pain and pleasure. And if it hurts to put your hand through it, then you're not going to do it. And that's all because we have a definition that this matter is more solid than the matter of air.
Okay. Well, how do we go through our own belief systems and make it okay for my hand to go through this table?
Well, it's just like any other practice. If it is part of your journey to spend time learning how to cultivate that skill, because it is the most joyful thing at this point in your life to teach yourself how to do that, then you shall go into training and learn how to do that, whatever that looks like, whether it be that you start out in one of the Chinese arts of learning to work with your energy and put your hand through the boards, karate or one of those. I'm not familiar with them, so I don't know what to call them, jiu-jitsu or whatever.
I did it, yeah.
And that's your baby step, because you're now ready to go into a place where you can put your hand through a hard table just as easy as you can air. That would be the first baby step of getting you to start modifying that belief until you get to a point, if it's part of your journey, to be able to see the atomic structure of the table with your eyes and see that there are spaces between those atoms that would then let you realize it's not as solid as you once thought, and therefore being able to put your hand through it very easily without any force or much effort at all, if any at all.
When I was in Taekwondo, part of our belts going up is you have to break boards.
Yeah.
I remember wholeheartedly that I was on the 2-board level, which I believe is yellow belt. I don't remember. But I was in the class and I was going, testing for my belt, and I had passed everything except for the boards. I have to go through these boards.
Yeah.
With me, I'm pulling my arm way back, and I'm like, whack, hit the board or break the first one, don't break the second one. And then my instructor gets up there that has a black belt, and he literally holds his hand right next to the boards, fingertips, touching the board with his fingertips.
Yep.
And whack, breaks all of them.
Yep.
And he had like 6 boards. And he said, you have to visualize your hand going through the boards.
That's right.
It was a tough pill to swallow. I mean, I got to where I could do it. When I hit brown belt, I could do it pretty easily. Yeah. I could do 4 boards pretty easily. The instructor, man, he could do like 10 or 12. And he would do it from like fingertips away. It's like whack, and go right through all of them.
Yeah. I mean, it's a matter of training your mind. We've got the energy body, we've got the mental body, we've got the physical body. And if you train your mind to see matter and in a different way, giving it a different definition, not the one that you've been fed, then it can be as easy as that. I mean, there's people out there that do things with their mind without even touching anything. They are able to utilize the energy and have it come off of their hands and crack the board or move things. It's all about what your belief systems are and what those definitions are. And that goes with anything, not something huge and miraculous and ostentatious like whacking 15 boards and cracking them without injuring yourself or walking along coal, but even your daily life. If you are experiencing something that's unpleasant, it's probably because you've given it a definition that may or may not even be true anymore. So if you erase those definitions and give new definitions to them, then they don't get to have any control, and you get to have your control back.
Yeah, we just talked about definitions in our previous podcast.
Yeah.
Definitions are defining your daily life based off your beliefs and everything else, and it can be tough. It can be a tough road to hoe to adapt definitions and change life.
Definitions are what create the beliefs.
Right.
Just to modify what you said.
Okay. Definitions are what create the belief, and the belief has to be true. So it's going to create a true world.
Right. I mean, your belief system, that mechanism itself will make itself true no matter what. If you have a definition that you habitually hold on to, then it further validates the belief that you've put in place based on the definition that you created, and that will make sure that it's true.
Well, it's the same thing, in our other podcast, What is Your Superpowers? We talked about what you identify as a superpower, and then our last podcast was about definitions, and now here we are talking about matter. So we're talking about mind over matter, and that's kind of putting in place the 2 previous podcasts into a daily life. And, I go through my entire day most of the time kind of going with that flow and that energy based upon what my day and my intentions and my definitions are turning true. So mind over matter implies to me that perhaps there's a step of this that I am missing.
Okay.
For example, if I change my definition that this table is air, but it's not air. And so what am I missing?
Well, you can't get there from there because you
Take
have
me there.
you specifically. We're gonna speak about you, and we're gonna use you as an example. You can't get from where you're at to where you're wanting to go because the frequency of what we see as we'll call it a problem, has a different frequency than the solution. And because it's ingrained so deeply in your belief system that this table is hard matter and that you've got to do some sequence of events to be able to put your hand through it, then you can't necessarily make that big of a jump of getting to the place where you can conceptualize that it's just a bunch of molecules and seeing it as a bunch of molecules that are actually not solid.
You know, I remember.
So you have to take baby steps.
Yes.
Until you get there. Unless you want to completely erase all of your definitions and void everything out and begin again, which would entail more probably time and effort than most people have time for or care to invest at this point, because we don't sit around in a quiet tribal type setting anymore, being able to contemplate quietly in our headspace and meditate, if you will, or sit quietly in our mind and play with those concepts, because the life that we've created as a collective is a busy life because we like to be movers and shakers for the most part. So there's a lot of noise out there, TVs, cell phones, your job. And unless you carve out time to sit and play with it, it'll take you a little while to get there, because it's like anything else. You have to restructure your belief system, and that takes some time unless you have time to really just go on a boot camp type scenario. You know, I guess what I'm saying is, if you were retired and you could completely go on a sabbatical where you eliminate all the noise in the world and you go sit in some quiet space for hours upon hours for, 2 or 3 days. And that was your whole agenda, was to just restructure your definitions and beliefs around this table, you could get there. But with all the other noise and all the other things going on, you can't get there from there. You have to take baby steps. And that's with most things, honestly.
Because I remember, like, my coaches in school and after school, like in Taekwondo class and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I remember one time my BJJ instructor was telling me, if you believe you can do something, because I was trying to power lift. I was trying to deadlift 385. Mm-hmm. I couldn't get it up. I couldn't get it off the ground. I kept saying, I can't. And he said, you're right. You can't. And then so I walked away from it, and I was thinking to myself, because according to all the parameters and everything that was set, I should be able to lift this. The instructor went over and added, I don't remember, 30 more pounds or whatever. It was 415. He added 415 to it. And he said, no, try that one. I was like, well, if I can't do 385, what makes you think I can do that? He says, go try it. And I went over there and I lifted 415, but I couldn't lift 385.
Right.
And he said, do you understand what just happened? He said, well, if you believe something, you can do it.
Or you can't.
Or you can't. And that's when I kept saying I can't on 385. He said, you're right, you can't. And I go over and I lift 415. And
because you hadn't had an opportunity to create those limiting beliefs around that new weight, and it boggled your brain for a minute and kind of shut it down.
Right.
And so you just went with what your body, you just went and did it without the thoughts in the way. That's a lot of times what we do on many, many topics is we argue for our limiting beliefs. Like if you're going to do something, for example, and you've got to have this big, long, drawn-out commentary about why you're going to do it with another human being, it's usually not for the benefit of that other human being. It's you talking yourself through, giving yourself permission to do whatever it is you're doing because you have beliefs or limitations in there, and you're trying to find permission slips within your own belief systems, loopholes, if you will, that will allow you to do this thing that you're wanting to do.
Right.
And that's something it's a tricky little loophole that we've all found to work around it. But it's great and it's wonderful when it works. The unfortunate thing is that it is not reliable and it won't work every time until you get to the seed of the belief that is limiting you from being able to do it consistently every time.
You know, I left part of that story out is I had been building up because we were maxing out.
Yeah.
And we were going up, I think, 10 pounds at a time. And I remember getting to the 375 mark. And I was thinking, man, this is heavy. I don't know if I'm going to hit 385. I started creating that belief in my head. And another part of it I left out was when I walked away, he actually changed all the plates around. He said, let's go back and start over. And so I walk up there thinking it's 355. And he says, now lift this. And so I don't pay any attention to the weights. I just walk over and I already knew in my mind I could lift 355. And so I walk over, I deadlift it up. I set it back down. He said, and I was like, I know I can do this. He said, well, you just lifted 415. And so I was mind blown. And I went over so I like counting the plates. I'm like, you can't do it. That could be 415. He said, yeah, you just lifted 415. You would convince yourself you couldn't lift any more weight. And I just convinced you that you could by telling you something untrue. And giving you what you thought in an indirect way was what we started with, and you were lifting.
Right, which is a beautiful, perfect evidence of how our mind is extremely powerful. So if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, either way, you are correct and true.
But to tie it back around to mind over matter, because to me, that 355 weight didn't matter because I'd already done it.
That's right.
And so my mind was just out of the way of it.
Yep.
And this went into flow with it. And because I didn't mind that it was 355, it didn't matter what it weighed.
Right.
I just picked it up. And that happens a lot for me throughout my day, where I find things that I didn't used to do that I can do now because I have changed since I've had this wonderful marriage with you. And the things that we go through and the stuff that we talk about, I've been able to change my perspective and my perception of a lot of things in life.
And you like carrot sandwiches now?
I do, yeah.
With mayonnaise or mustard?
It don't matter. I really don't like carrots, but I don't mind the sandwich.
So you're just going to have mayonnaise or mustard and bread?
I'll have a mayonnaise and cheese and carrot sandwich. How about that? When, to really clarify on that, there's a lot of people on a daily basis that limit themselves. To them, the matter does mind. It messes with their expectations and their definitions and their intentions, and then they talk themselves out of doing a lot of things.
Of course.
I think the prime example of that for us right now in our reality is one of our employees. I'm going to say it like that, one of our employees. And that employee is in a space of unhappiness because her reality has changed. That reality has changed in her mind in a negative manner because she has lost her crutch, so to speak, in her reality. And so now she walks around negatively, in a negative way, with negative energy, because in her mind, this opportunity that's in front of her is not what she wanted it to be, because her perfect world was this and this and that and that. And now she's in a place to where her friend got promoted, and now she's putting herself in this negative place because to her, what mattered in her mind has now changed. Instead of looking at it as an opportunity to be better and excel, she's looking at it in a negative way. What matters to her is being affected in her mind and changing her behavior.
Yeah. So, but she can't help it because she is where she is.
Correct.
You cannot get from where you're at when you're so deep in what you view as a problem. It's just a different frequency. And so it's very hard to jump from a lower frequency to a higher frequency, no matter what the topic is. So you have to find baby steps. I'll give you my example. I have been fighting against or embracing head cold. And that's probably why I sound a little nasally. But yesterday, I had to stop and say, okay, what feels better in this? Because I'm obviously going to ride this out. Because I always do my energy work, I do my herbal supplements, and that's how I navigate these little things. And what I decided yesterday is that I could get up, I could push through, go to work, or I could give myself permission to stay home and rest.
Let your body heal.
And I had to break it down into a little small piece because sometimes we want to be good stewards of our job and give ourselves wholly and completely. And I am one of those people. I decided, it feels yuckier to think about having to get up and go to work when I feel the way I feel. It feels better to think about being able to go and lay down and rest rather than focusing on, oh my God, I'm so aggravated right this minute that I have a head cold, and not talking about it, not addressing it, not even giving it any focus or any of that. I was trying really hard to stay unfocused because it had been manifesting for a couple of days, and I wouldn't talk about it. I was going to give it no energy. I'm just drinking fluids, doing whatever my body asks of, and I wouldn't conversate about it. Even when you see it in my aura and ask about it, I am always responding, nope, I'm fine. But on this particular day, I said, because the day before I went ahead and went to work, but it felt really hard. It was really hard to do that because I didn't feel good. And so acknowledging it and saying, okay, what is the feel better place, even in this little tiny, tiny aspect of this, and not sitting around focusing on, oh my God, I feel awful. Taking a moment to say, okay, what will make me feel better, even if it's just a little bit better, and do that. And I think that's what I keep trying to teach people, and what I want people to hear is it doesn't matter what the topic is. If you can find just that tiny little glimpse of what feels better in this given moment, do that, whatever that is. And for that moment, it felt better to say, you know what? You are battling with something. You don't necessarily, just because you're acknowledging it doesn't mean that you're giving it any energy. But what feels better is to go back to bed and lay down and rest.
Right.
And so that's what I did. And
you changed what mattered.
I changed what mattered. And so instead of it mattering that I was beating myself up for not being able to get rid of this illness, so to speak, or being strong enough to go to work and work through it, which is all just nonsensical definitions, I gave myself permission to do the next best thing that feels good inside of me, even if it's just a tiny thing. And that was to go back to bed and honor where I'm at. And that's what needs to happen in every single thing. But sometimes you have to dial it down and look at it on a very, very tiny microscopic level.
Agreed.
Feeling better, when we talk about finding that joy or finding that feel better place, it doesn't mean that you have to be doing backflips and confetti fall from the sky and you're all excited and all of that. It could be something as tiny as, it feels awful to think about having to go to work when I feel this way. It feels better to think about going to bed. And so then when I went and laid in the bed, it was such a much better feeling to be able to go rest on a tiny scope and free myself of the definition that I had created in my head about being a good employee and working through even though I'm sick and having to have some conversation about well, if I don't go to work, nobody will do it, or they won't do it right, or they're all going to be lost, or whatever the story or the definition is that we tell ourselves to keep ourselves moving in a direction. If it doesn't feel good, it doesn't really matter what the story is. It doesn't feel good.
Right.
So finding something that you can put in place that temporarily feels better is the key to the whole game, I think.
Kind of tying it all back in together is the difference between what we do daily and what we believe we can do daily depends 100% off our definitions, and really based on if you don't mind, it don't matter.
It also will change the energy that you're putting out.
Yes.
It'll change your energy structure. And so then you'll have different interactions with different human beings. Sometimes what trips us up is that we can put out a certain kind of energy on a subconscious level. And if we aren't bringing ourselves to the awareness of beliefs that are in place, then subconsciously we're putting out an energy and we're getting experiences based on an energy that we don't even realize we're putting out. And then that brings about like confusion and misunderstanding, and I don't understand why this keeps happening to me, or I don't understand why this person can't see that I'm doing all of these things. And it'll bring about confusion, or not able to see why your reality is the way that it is, or how you're creating your reality. Because subconsciously, you're putting energy out there that says one thing, even though you are thinking something different.
If it's against your beliefs. Is that what you mean?
Well, I mean, what I mean is, if you have a belief that you're doing all that you know to do about a topic, but subconsciously you have an underlying belief that you don't know is running, that is the belief that will put out energy that you don't realize you're putting out. And so therefore, the other belief of I'm doing everything I can to make this reality better or to make this person happy, and nothing seems to be working, then it's more than likely it's a sub-belief that you don't even know is there. And that's what's putting the frequency out there, which then doesn't allow for the other person to behave any differently energetically.
Okay. Wait. That's what's in my head right now. Because I'm going to need you to reword that.
For your benefit?
Yes.
Do you want me to use... Okay. So I was trying to think of an easy example that's easy to hear for you where you're at right now. If this employee that you used as an example, and I don't really like doing that, because if they listen and they're not where they can hear it openly, then it can cause some ruckus, but we are where we are. If her belief is that the only way she can tolerate her day is if this person and this person's energy is in her bubble on a daily basis, and the frequency that this person puts off raises her frequency, and she likes the way that feels, then she has a good day. But if she believes that without that person, she can't have a good day in her, and she doesn't realize that she has that belief in place, then she's inadvertently going to put off a frequency or an energy sequence that says, I can't have a good day if that person's not in my work bubble anymore. And so the universe is going to say, okay, well, this is the louder frequency that you're carrying. So here, let me give you another spoonful of a not so fun day. Here's some more.
Right.
Here's some more. And the next thing you know, the whole day is being experienced in not a quite pleasant way. Rather than saying or coming to a place of, okay, you know what? I can have a good day whether that person's in my bubble or whether they're not. And I'm going to find ways to do that, loopholes to do that, until I believe that I can have a good day, whether that person's in my bubble or not.
Right. And with that, the vibrational energy of that bad day energy that she's created, she's projecting that energy as well.
Yeah. So it's coming off of her inadvertently.
Yeah.
Because subconsciously, she doesn't realize she's putting that energy out there.
And that human reactions that is happening is created from that negative vibration because she has that belief that she can't have a good day without this person in her bubble.
Right.
And so
she doesn't even realize
she do?
she's doing it. She doesn't even realize that she's doing it.
Right.
She just knows that this change happened. I can't find the frequency of my higher self or the frequency of a good day without this person coming in every morning and being in my bubble. And so she can't find the frequency of it.
Right. And she's projecting that same frequency out there, which is keeping people from even approaching her.
That's right.
And she don't realize it. And I hope that she does, because she's really got a lovely energy and a lovely personality.
Yeah.
And I hope that she can build off of this and grow and become better.
Yeah, we all do it.
On the other side of that is because of her, what matters to her is stuck in her mind. This matter does mind. She minds this matter. And it's
kind of a confusing statement. I don't know what you're trying to say.
What I'm trying to say is it within her mind, because this situation where she can't have a good day unless this other person's energy is in her bubble is something that is a belief in her mind.
Yeah.
And so that matters because of her mind.
Yeah.
And if she can learn to address that energy and change her mind, then that situation doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
Okay. That's what I was trying to say.
Well, I mean, that was a clearer way to say it than the way you were trying to be clever. Yeah. And I get it.
I was trying to be clever.
You were.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Sometimes I'm not clever.
It's okay. Sometimes you're just a big cleaver.
Wow. Wow. That wasn't very. I don't even know what to say to that.
What is a cleaver?
You know what a cleaver is.
It's like a knife or something.
It's a big hatchet knife.
Yeah, you kind of just chop it all up and can't really make sense of it.
Used to devour bones in the kitchen.
All I meant by
it you never chop a bone in half.
Sometimes you just kind of chop it up and it's hard to make sense of it.
No, I'm playing. It didn't hurt my feelings at all. I'm just playing with you. So to kind of bring it all back into this submission, what do we do when we can't get there? So what do we do when like, I'm going to talk about me, when I can't get to that spot to say this is air and I can stick my hand through it? What do I do to start moving that in baby steps, like you said? Well,
first you have to decide if you're committed to the concept.
Okay. So if it really matters to me, that's matter.
We'll talk about the table and getting to a place where you truly, truly believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is not solid and that you could stick your finger through it at this given moment. You have to decide that you're committed to that concept and that you're willing to invest the time and energy to explore that and then do it because it's fun, not because it's something you think that you should be doing or a chore feeling. Those all have different energy because you think it's fun and it would be interesting and curiosity to explore it. Those are all different frequencies. At that point, whenever you're committed to putting in whatever the actions are that need to take place, then you got to take baby steps to get there. And if we're gonna continue with the topic of redefining the table being a solid mass that you can't put your hand through, then you would need to sit and contemplate your definitions of things that have labels and redefine the labels that we give things and go pretty much like a quantum physics kind of place of understanding that nothing is solid. Atoms come together, but there's still a space in between them. The baby steps would be starting small. practicing moving a piece of paper with the energy of your hands. But first, before you can even get to that place, understanding and realizing that you have energy that you can work with in your body. And let me say "and" one more time, because 3 is the magic number.
Yeah.
And.
And yeah, editor.
So understanding your energy, for example, because that's all that the Asian, I don't know what it's called, those jiu-jitsu karate things, all they're getting you to do is realize that you have an energy body that has power. You have a mind body that has power. And bringing those 3, mind, body, energy, together and unite them as one gives you the ultimate power to be able to break through the wood. But you got to take them a step at a time. So baby step number 1 would be acknowledging that you have an energy body, acknowledging that you have energy coming off of your body.
I see it.
You have to validate that. Mm-hmm. And if you can't see it and you're not necessarily very good at feeling it, you've got to do something that will validate that that concept is real for you by working, if you're talking about baby steps and you never heard the concept before as a new listener, go seek out a Reiki practitioner, for example, and see what that feels like. I'm going somewhere with it, so hang on, ride with me for a second. Because you first have got to get to a place where you can conceptualize the concept that there is energy.
Okay.
And so you go to a Reiki practitioner, you get a session, for example, and see, does it feel any different to you? Can you acknowledge that there is an energy body? Or do some sort of energy routine and see if you can feel any changes in your mental or physical body to give you evidence that this thing we talk about, energy body, does exist. That in and of itself will slowly but surely begin to create a different level on that belief system by whittling it away a little bit.
Okay.
Once you get to the place where you understand that you do have energy and you've seen evidence of it, then you start playing with your own energy and, rubbing your hands together and really contemplating and focusing on, can I feel the energy ball that I'm creating in my hand? Can I feel that? And what does it feel like? And you start learning your own energy. And once you can feel that energy and you've found the frequency of what your own energy feels like, then start practicing moving things with that energy, like smoke, the smoke off of a candle, the smoke off of something burning. Don't touch it. Just, use the energy coming off of your hand to conceptualize the fact that you can use the energy off of your hand to move something. It's kind of like the weightlifting thing. You had to start with a lighter poundage and work your way up. Working with the energy is no different. You got to start with something small. First, you've got to conceptualize the fact that it exists and that you can control it, and you got to take baby steps within it. Once you get to a place where you can actually get the smoke to go in a certain direction with just your hand waving around out there, and you work yourself through the beliefs that come up with that. Oh, the wind's blowing, or I breathed and that's why it moved. All those beliefs are going to come up, and you're going to have to rewrite all of those different beliefs, whatever they are for you, because that's how we've been taught. We've been taught not to believe in the imaginary, unrealistic life or perspective, that it's all just kind of woohoo. And so those beliefs are all going to come up. And if you're committed to the concept of learning how to do that, then you've got to sit and work with those beliefs and restructure them and redefine the things that are creating those beliefs. Then you move to, a piece of paper, a gum wrapper, move it across the table. Then, once you can do that, then maybe you move to a small pebble or a small stone, and you just take baby steps, and you're committed to the concept because you want to get there until you've completely restructured your definitions and your belief systems around matter and around the concept of this being a solid table. You're going to restructure that whole definition that it's solid if I want it to be solid, and it's not solid if I don't want it to be solid. Okay. Coming eventually to a place where if you don't want it to be solid, you separate the atoms far enough apart to where you can stick your hand through it. And if you need it to be solid so you can sit your drink on it, then you move the molecules back together so that it's solid enough for you to put your drink on. But you got to get past the beliefs that that shit ain't real and that's a bunch of woohoo, and I can't do that because it's some weird woohoo concept of conspiracy theory or rabbit hole theory, and embrace it. Yeah. Separate and apart from what they have taught you, from what they say, and be invested in that being your next thing that you play with, and always do it from a childlike mind of, this is really fun. I like to see the outcome. I like to see what happens. Let's try this and see what happens. This is exciting. This is fun. Even if you can't do it right at first, don't sink back into the belief of, see, I told you, you can't do it. Or it's not real. You can't do it. Right. Keep forging forward and keep practicing. It's no different than playing like basketball.
We talk about the subconscious mind controlling the conscious mind all the time, and this is a way that you consciously can change your subconscious mind. And with the beliefs and definitions, if I hear what you're saying correctly. And another story that come to mind about that same breaking board incident was, I remember when I first started, I asked the instructor, how do you not break your hand? And he said to me, because I believe my hand is stronger and harder and faster and quicker than those boards are.
Right.
And so I visualized my hand being a great big sledgehammer, and he just punches right through it.
Yeah. And because he has that belief in place, I guarantee you, if you looked at his hand on a microscopic level, you would see that the atoms and everything condense together whenever he's in that mindset or in that mode.
Yeah, that's what puzzled me about it. The whole thing is it did change his energy. His energy of his hand completely changed from his body.
Right.
It was, for me, very enlightening. But man, it's a tough road to try to go down that road. I'm not saying that because I believe it's a tough road. I'm saying that's what my body was saying. That's what my subconscious mind was telling me then.
Yeah, it can be a tough road. When you're going in and you've been taught all your life that something looks this way, it can be a very challenging road to get rid of or to restructure those definitions and belief systems. It can be a challenge.
Yeah, that's a tough road sometimes. We get taught so many things growing up, and it gets put into our belief, all these different subjects and stuff in school and from families and stuff, and sometimes it gets in the way. If we as a human race can learn to conceptualize a different thought process that kind of reflects what we're talking about in this, it really wouldn't matter.
I think another key part of it that's entangled in it is this concept as well, because this is intertangled in a lot of it when I work with people. If you can get to a place where you understand that every microsecond you're moving into a new reality and a parallel reality, you're a different person, and you can make the choice to bring the history with you, i.e. the baggage. You're making a choice to bring that with you. And you don't have to.
Right.
You can completely restructure your history because you literally are a different person millisecond by millisecond. Every frame that you move into, you're a whole new person. You're a different person because you can't go back.
Right.
You can't. Once you're educated, you can't get stupid.
What? Once you're educated, you can't get stupid.
Right. Once you're educated on a topic, you can't back up and get stupid about it or ignorant about it. Once
That's
you learn
funny.
what 2 + 2 is, you can't unlearn that and become uneducated about it ever again.
Wow, that's a big statement. Huh, that's crazy. Never thought of it like that.
Right.
Once you learn it, you can't go back, but we can go back and change the beliefs behind what we learned.
I mean, the easier, actually, once you get the concept down of I'm a brand new person every millisecond of the day, and I don't have to bring that history of who I was with me. I don't have to tote that baggage around. I literally can put it in the universal library, and I can decide to rewrite history. It will happen in seconds. You'll see change. I'll give you an example on my own personal journey. You know, we bowl. And
We bowling? Like we bowl or we bowl?
W-E,
We
not
wobble?
W.
Oh.
W-I-I.
Oh, okay.
We bowl. We're on a break right now, but one of the games I would play with myself is I would go in saying, you know what? I am going to write history, and it's already happened. When I would go into a game and I wanted to bowl a certain number on my game, I got rid of the history of what I used to bowl, and I decided I am going to bowl this number or better. And I would rewrite the history all the way down to when I'm sitting at the table waiting for my turn to bowl. I am visualizing having conversations of going back to work with my friends and my coworkers and them saying, well, how did you do? And I would have a conversation with them saying, oh, I bowled a 189 and knocked it out of the park, or a 200. And I interacted with the new history that I rewrote and let go of the previous history that once was, because I'm not that person. I'm not that person now. I've learned past that. And every single time I would take the time to do that, I would bowl 189 or 200, or I would bowl at least what I asked for, and most of the time over
that.
that.
Interesting.
And and it would be very easy. The ball would feel light. Deciding where to put my feet was no effort at all. I just would get up there, get into position, and do it. And what I would tell myself is, there's no sense in thinking about this and over analyzing it, because it's already done. You've already written history and it's already done. So just get up there and throw the ball. And it relieved me and gave me the freedom of having to analyze or think through the process. Yeah. So I just got up there, picked up the ball, and I just threw it. And there was nothing in my mind that got in my way and limited me from being able to accomplish the history that I wrote.
The history.
And that is something that you can do in all aspects: money, finances, well-being. And so if we can get to a place where we understand that history is just that, it is what you've already done. It's old news. Yeah. It's old news. Rewrite history. That's what I teach about. That's why I say journal. Is journal what you want your new history to be, and then live it as if it's already happened. And you'll begin to see those things click into place.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a really good place to leave that. What do you think? Are you complete?
I am always complete.
Okay. Mind over matter. What's the matter? What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you?
Ayo, what's the matter with you?
Oh, ayo. You know, mind over matter. And I think it's a great topic. I think it's a great, and I hope we gave plenty of food.
If it doesn't matter, I don't mind.
That's right. It shouldn't matter at all. We should be able to control the matter. What's the matter? I control the matter. That's where I want to be. That's how I want to be. Think about it.
The ultimate goal, and don't forget this, because the shoulds and coulds get in the way. If it feels better, you're always using your feelings as your gauge. So don't put the parameter on yourself that you should be doing this, because then that holds a frequency of, I have to do this to be an evolved person, or I have to do this to be a better
successful.
person, or whatever. That's a different frequency, a different energy than, ooh, I want to play with this because it sounds fun or intriguing or interesting. And finding that feel better place, little steps at a time or huge leaps at a time, wherever you're at, using the feel better gauge.
The feel better meter.
That's right. The feel better meter is an important step in that.
Nice. Good podcast.
There you have it.
There's that carrot rabbit hole. We just dove down it. Hey, thank you all for listening today. We appreciate you completely being dedicated to the podcast, those that are, and we do want you to know that we do love you all.
Love you.
Thank you. Like, follow, share with your friends, and don't forget to support the show if you want. It's your call. It's not required, but there are some subscriber-only content out there, and you may be enlightened by that as well. We hope you all enjoyed the podcast. We hope you continue to listen, and thank you all very much.
Thank you. Love you.
Have an awesome day.